Hi, everyone, and welcome to Behind the Headlines. I'm Amanda Borschel-Dan, and this week we're joined by Dr. Donald T. Ariel, who is the head of the Israel Antiquities Authority's coin department. Now, coins are so fascinating to me because they're basically bite-sized pieces of geopolitical history that you can hold in your hand. So I'm really perhaps too excited to be talking about this today. So Donald, first of all, tell us, how did you get into the field?
I started in my senior year at university in the United States doing a course in numismatics. That's the research into coins, and we identified a coin collection and actually published it at the end of the semester. That just introduced me into the subject, and then I made Aliyah the following summer, and was looking for work to do, and I ended up volunteering for Professor Yaakov Mishurer, the Dean of Israeli Numismatics, back in 1976.
Now, Mishora was a family friend of my husband's family, and they always told stories about just going out into a field with him, walking around, and he would inevitably pick up a coin or two just lying on the surface of the ground. Do you have this amazing magic as well?
No, I don't. But Yaakov certainly did. He also was a raconteur. I hope I can live up to his tradition in that, because I want to tell you stories about the coins, not just what was found. I've been working in the office for 31 years. I've been out in the field beforehand. So most of what I'm going to be sharing is about coins that actually other people found, but that I had the honor of working on, and also be bringing in subjects that are, for me, the most interesting discoveries of the past 40, 50 years in this field.
Brilliant. So we're going to be helped by Rena Levin, who's going to be helping us with the slides. So Rena, could you please put on the first slide? Okay, I have to say that one of the highlights of my journalism career was actually visiting you in your quote unquote office. These are pictures of the vault. Tell us a little bit about what we're seeing and the different periods that are being represented.
You're looking at 750,000 coins in one room. Can't tell you where they are.
Right.
And we store them in different kinds of ways. There's an example of each way in these slides. The brown boxes on the right are the boxes of coins that made up the British Mandate coin collection from almost 100 years ago. Those are the original boxes of mahogany. The standard way of storing coins is on the upper left. We store coins in boxes made for bolts and nuts, made in Cholon, but they're actually perfect for what we do, and each coin is in an envelope. In the lower left, those are boxes of coin hoards, especially made for hoards, and you can see all the coins together on a tray. I have one here that I took out. Whoop! Don't want it to fall over. That's what they look like. That's our safe, and you have coins in the safe that date from the earliest coins, which I'll be showing you in just a minute, from the beginning of coinage, end of the 7th century BCE. And the coins continue to be found in the country until today. We have coins from excavations from the 1980s and 1970s. We also register them, but most of the coins date to the Hellenistic, Seleucid, Hasmonean periods of the 2nd and 1st centuries BC. And then there's another peak in the 4th and 5th centuries CE, the early Byzantine period.
Great. One comment, I remember when I was with you in the vault that the mahogany wood boxes aren't necessarily coins that have clear provenance. Is that correct?
Those are coins from the Mandate period. And in the Mandate period, most of the coins were purchased. The Mandate authorities had a budget to buy coins. They went to the old city, and they would buy beautiful coins for very, very cheap back then. The state of Israel does not have any budget to buy coins, which I think is terrific. We have concentrated on working on coins from excavations. They have much, much more value because we can learn from the strata that the coins were found in. We learn from the coins, the objects found with the coins, and we're able to date the archaeological excavations and also learn about coin currency. These are things you cannot learn from purchased coins.
And I think what is clear is that the collection is for research purposes. It's not for necessarily just to have a collection, a complete collection. It's for
Right.
things that, yes. That
Definitely, our focus is on research. At the same time, at any one time, we have 5,000-10,000 coins on exhibition in different places. So we are involved with the exhibition side of it, but that's not our focus here. We're involved in researching the coins and publishing them. We have published already a quarter of all of the identified coins in the collection.
Okay, Rena, let's have the next slide and talk about the origin of coins.
The earliest coin, before there are coins, on the upper right, you see kind of proto coins. In fact, people before they would make coins, they first used the idea of taking silver, breaking it up into pieces, and weighing them on a scale balance. Here are hacked silver coins from Tel Ashkelon from an excavation. And you see that they're lumps of broken jewelry. In fact, that's the proto money of the 8th and 7th centuries BC, before coins were invented.
So for instance, last week or the week before, I wrote about this half shekel piece that was found near the Western Wall, I believe. The archaeologist then said that it was used as a weight, sometimes for silver. So this would be an example of the silver that the half shekel could have weighed out.
Yes, but there are specialized weights for weighing silver. You don't need to take a coin to weigh silver against it. But yes, this is the way Abraham paid for the Ma'arat Machpelah, the Machpelah tomb. He weighed 400 shekels. There were no coins at the time. He weighed pieces of silver, like what you see here. The main dollar of the classical period is in the upper left. Those are Athenian tetradrachms. The only provenance hoard of Athenian tetradrachms is one of these is them, and I'm going to show you some more that I pulled out of the safe today, except my hand is not already easy to show. How's that?
That's perfect.
You see them. Okay, these are those same coins in the Athenian tetradrachms that you saw, and because they were the most popular coin at the time, I can explain that all the coins thereafter for the next couple hundred years were copying them. And I'm not showing you in this picture those coins, but in the next slide I'll mention that again, that there are a lot of copies of these Athenian tetradrachms issued in Jerusalem in its earliest silver mint. But I want to show you first the coins in the lower right and the lower left. The lower left coin is the earliest coin found in Israel. It was found actually underneath the Begun Heritage Center in Jerusalem. It's a coin of Kos, Greek island off of Turkey. And although you can't see it too well, if you look carefully or have a good imagination, on the lower left side, you see a crab, because that's the symbol of the Kos coin. And in the lower right is a coin I was involved in finding. I excavated it at the city of David. This is back in the 1980s. And here's a coin of Lycia, also in Western Asia Minor, Western Turkey. You see a three-legged circle on the right side. That coin dates to the middle of the 5th century. We still have to go down a little bit more before we can see the coins that were first struck in the southern Levant, in this region. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, because even though there were coins circulating, we don't even know how many people understood what coinage meant in those earliest times. But here, when people start minting coins in their own town, then we know they understand what they're for. And the first coins minted in Judea were coins of the mint that's called Yehud. That's the satrapy of Yehuda. And I wanted to say that the Athenian tetradrachms were the standard coin that were imitated. I'm not showing you them because I want you to see the newest finds of the Yehud coinage. These are coins that have perhaps the most Jewish symbols of all of the Jewish coins we will discuss, all the way down to the first revolt and the destruction of Jerusalem. Because
I'm a little surprised to see faces on the coins, just knowing the 10 Commandments and everything.
Right. Well, we have to have a more creative understanding of what laws were observed at different times. But certainly there were Jewish laws back in the 5th and 6th centuries. You also have to consider who was observing them. Was it everybody, or were only the priests taking charge of keeping these commandments? But here we have the lily on the left side, which is a clear symbol of Judea and the ethnos of the people of Judea, the Jews, the symbol of the lily. This is the earliest one, but that symbol continues throughout Jewish coinage and in other places, and it turned into the fleur-de-lis in the Crusader period.
What year are we talking about here?
This is the end of the 4th century BC.
Okay, so if the priests aren't the ones who are involved with striking the coins, who would have been the ones striking the coin?
Well, first of all, the priests could have been striking these coins, because who was buying things at this time? Maybe people were coming and paying tithes to the temple or giving gifts to the temple, and so this was a way they could do that. These coins are keyed into the shekel weight. They're smaller denominations. They're very, very small coins. The second coin is the shofar, which you can see in the middle. That's the only depiction of a shofar for 500-600 years, until much after 70 and the destruction of Jerusalem, a depiction of a shofar. So we know that Jews understood what shofar was. We know it from the Bible, of course, but there's a ram's horn. And on the right, I think the most interesting Jewish coin from such an early period is this item, which is a ear, obviously an ear. And it reminds us, of course, of the texts in Psalms and other places, and also the catechism of the Jewish tradition, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Hear. This is a symbol of hearing. The belief in God starts with hearing. The Jewish religion is not a religion that focuses on images. No images of God, no images of people on coins, no pagan images. We find, even from the earliest times, is listening. From Psalms, hear, O Lord, give ear to my prayer. And so that's what these coins say to me, certainly. And I find them very exciting. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, now we have to though jump to the time when the Yehud, the Persian coins are not being issued, and the first coin ever issued in Jerusalem in bronze. This coin was struck by John Hyrcanus I, the son of Judah Maccabee and the other Maccabees. He issued this coin under his suzerain, under his ruler, but named Antiochus VII. I just published an article on these coins. I'm going to say a few things about these and the next couple slides in a moment, but I just wanted to say, how do we know this is a Jewish coin? Well, it has the lily on it. That's certainly important. It has an anchor, which is not a Jewish symbol, but it became one in a sense because it's so common in the Seleucid period. But the main way we know that this coin was issued in Jerusalem is the map on the right. You see every dot represents coin or many coins. And you see that all the coins are clustered around Jerusalem. That means that this is a way we can use archaeology, archaeological finds to establish where the mint of the coins were. And these coins were certainly minted in Jerusalem for a number of reasons, as well as the distribution. Let's go to the next slide. There was a large number of those same coins with the lily and anchor found in this very well-known site nowadays called the Givati parking lot in the city of David of Jerusalem. There's a point, an arrow pointing to where the coins were found. And on the left, there's a map that shows the Givati parking lot and the city of David. There were 90 coins found just in this one spot of this one type, 2 times more than the coins known 40, 50 years ago of this type. So this is an important archaeological evidence for the site. And it also, we learn a lot more, but I can't go into all of it, about what that site says about where the city walls were and who was besieging the city at the time. So we're going to go, though, to stay on the coin subject and look at the other coin that was found in this area. Next slide. Oh, sorry, I have one more of this type. This is the other coin, a New Jerusalem type of Antiochus VII. This was discovered in 2012. For a century, there were very, very few new coins discovered from Jerusalem. This coin has been known, but it was never known that it came from Jerusalem. People thought it came from Ashkelon because there's a maritime symbol on it. The symbol on the right side, called an aphlastone, is a decoration of a boat. But in fact, we will see the aphlastone has other meanings, but from the distribution on the right side, the map, we see that most of the coins of this type were found in Jerusalem. 18 out of 23 of the coins known from a provenance of this type were found in Jerusalem. On one side is the Ephlah stone. It also says Antiochus VII on it, but on the left side we see a helmet. And that's also very important for connecting us to Jerusalem. Let's go next slide.
Can you really make a rule out of only 23 coins? Can you make such a broad statement?
When 18 out of 23 come from the same city, yes, that's enough. It really is. I'd love to find more, but right now, this is what we're dealing with. And my colleagues have all agreed they're very excited about the new find. Okay, so why is that helmet important? That coin of Antiochus VII struck by Hyrcanus when he was a puppet of Antiochus VII. Why is that important? Because the first coin he issued had exactly the same type of helmet on the left. See two of the coins and then a gem showing the same symbol. It's a helmet looking to the right. You see the visors, you see the crest above the helmet. And that is the first and largest early Hasmonean coin. So it connects us directly to that link coin that was found in 2012, which puts the whole thing in a more continuous way. The Antiochus VII coin is from the time of Antiochus VII, which was until 131 BC. And then another 5 or 6 years later, Hyrcanus struck his own coin with his name on it. And that's what you see on the right. Yehochanan, the high priest, head of the Council of the Jews. So this is a very special coin as well. And I have another article about this in press right now, explaining how this is the kind of statement of independence. I prefer to call it autonomy. Statement of autonomy of John Hyrcanus. There was no state. It was a high priesthood. It was a theocracy. But there is a great deal of independence to the Hasmoneans that started around 125 BC.
And how many of these coins do we have in our collection?
Only two. They're both from Gamla up in the north. There are only less than 50 coins of this type known. They're quite clear. And I'd like to find more. There's even an idea that because the only two that are provenanced were found in Gamla, that the coins were actually struck up in the Galilee. And I'd love to prove that wrong because it doesn't make sense to me. But we'll go on and we'll see how Hasmonean coins become much more popular in the next slide. The Hasmonean coins corner the market. The Hasmonean coins become the most common coins in all of Judea. Sort of like every country uses their own currency, but you have places in the ancient world where the local mint did not mint all too many coins, and so you have more coins of other countries coming in and being used. But in the Hasmonean period, people only used Hasmonean coins. You have coins here of John Hyrcanus again, Alexander Yanai, Hyrcanus's son, and coins of Mattathias Antigonus, the last Hasmonean king who reigned until Herod conquered Jerusalem in 37 BC. I just want to say something about the types, the symbols on these coins. They don't look Jewish like the shofar or the ear or the lily, but they are not offensive. That's the key to Jewish coinage. There are no pagan symbols. For us to understand how special these coins are, we have to see what the other coins were like. And in that time, every coin had of the king on one side and had some pagan god on the other side. So these coins really stand out in ancient times. And they have the ancient Hebrew on them, but it's the symbols that really show us that even though the symbols don't look necessarily Jewish, they are. The wreath is a very, very simple kind of symbol of kingship or victory. You have in the left, the second from left, that's a diadem, also a crown of a king. You have the cornucopias in the middle, and Alexander Jannaeus used a star type because his name was Alexander, and the person using the star type before then, the most famous leader in the ancient world was Alexander the Great. He also had a star on his shield. So that's why we have the star. It's also not offensive in a sense, so that's why it was used. I'm jumping because we don't have that much time, and I want to show you coins of King Herod. Herod conquered the Hasmonean dynasty before he, of course, he married one of the daughters of the dynasty to become a kind of Hasmonean himself. But he conquered Mattathias Antigonus in 37 BCE and started his own dynasty, the Herodian dynasty, which survived in a sense all the way to the end of the 1st century CE. This is Herod's prime coin from after Augustus became the emperor. He writes on it Basileus Herodu, King Herod. And in the middle, you see something that looks really strange. You see a cross. Why would you have a cross on a Jewish coin? And you see a kind of circle. That circle, in fact, is a diadem. It's a kind of thing you put around your head. It's made out of gold, and you tie it at the end. Those strings at the bottom are ties of how you tie your crown onto your head. So this coin was issued in honor of Herod meeting Augustus on the island of Rhodes in 30 BCE, when Herod was not at all sure that he was going to be approved by Augustus. He had been on the other side. He was on Mark Antony's side in that battle. When we met with Augustus in Rhodes, he took off his crown. He laid it on the table. Josephus describes this and says, okay, I'm yours. Do what you want. Cut my head off or let me continue. And Augustus picked up the crown from the table and put it on his head. And that's what we see here on this first coin, the crown of Herod. We'll see it in another slide. It looks a little bit different when you...
but what does the cross symbolize before the crosses we know?
The cross, Yaakov Meshuer, my teacher, suggested that the circle was an omega and the cross was a tav, the letter tav. And he connected them to a section of the Talmud which talks about how the king has to be more important than the priest. And so the king is a diadem, and the priest, the tav, is a Talmudic reference, is a symbol of priesthood. And that's how he explains it. I don't know what that cross is. I couldn't tell you. But that's the way things are. We'll find out as we go along.
Right. I mean, truthfully, when I saw the coin, I thought it was an omega. So that makes utter sense to me. I don't
Possible,
know.
yeah. But we try to stay in the period where things are happening. He had to go to the 6th century CE to find a proof text for this, and I don't usually like to go that far away to explain objects.
Right.
Okay, so I worked my doctorate as Herod the Great, and I just want to show you that archaeological work and numismatic work is not all fun and games. I had to create a die study of Herod's coins, and you can see how very, very complicated this became. The coin whose die study you see here, if you look carefully on the right side, you see there's a helmet on the bottom and a tripod on the bottom right. And we'll see a larger image of that in the next slide. And this is the way we do our work. We try to identify each impression of each die, each stamp by itself, and then see how they connect to each other. And so we can put all the coins in order. Obverse 1, O1 is earlier than O2 because they have this common connections. And on the side on the left, you see how interconnected all of these coins are.
So essentially, the die study is that you're trying to figure out where and when they were minted. Is that what you're doing?
In this case, it's when they were minted. Mm-hmm. Which coins came first? On the basis of this die study, I saw that the coins were minted in a very, very intensive way, as you see on the left. There are many dies being used at the same time at many workstations, and therefore I was able to explain that even though Herod conquered Jerusalem in June 37 BC, and year 3, the year that's appears on this coin, ended on Rosh Hashanah, on Tishrei, that he only had 3 months to issue this first coin of his. He did it very quickly, and that's what I learned from all this complexity, is that those coins were able to be issued in that time period. The alternative was Meshuer's alternative, where he claimed that these coins were minted just before Herod conquered Jerusalem, and they were minted in Samaria. I don't accept that. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so here we see Herod's helmet on the left side, the one you saw in the former slide, a little bit larger. And you can see another discovery of mine, that Herod's helmet on his largest coin that was minted in that first issue in 37 BCE got all kinds of unusual features. And when I thought about unusual features on coins, I thought of this coin of the founder of the Seleucid dynasty, Seleucus I. Of course, there are different symbols and different designs, but you see the bull's ear and the bull's horn and the panther skin. That's the pagan version. And Herod, who also wanted to have a very nice first coin symbolizing his victory, he selected his helmet. And why are helmets important? Because when you go into battle, you people who are behind you, assuming you're in the front, and that's the way things were back then, people behind you wanted to see that you're the leader is still there. And there are many, many cases in ancient times where the leader, the king, would lose his helmet, would fall off, and then the soldiers would stop fighting because they thought their leader had died. And so we have many examples of that. And so the idea of putting a personal helmet on a coin, just like Seleucid I, makes a lot of sense to me. And also it's been an accepted idea for this very unusual coin. Okay, so there we see the helmet again, Herod's helmet. And I wanted to stress another point here, that in Herod's time, and in fact, in Hasmonean times, we don't have Jewish symbols. We have symbols of victory. The Jewish symbols I described in the very beginning, the ear, the shofar, the lily, but for the most part, they're just plain old symbols that don't have great deal of meaning. But if there is some meaning, it's the meaning of victory. The Jews who were Hasmoneans at the time were fighters, and they also needed to keep fighting in order to maintain the dynasty. It wasn't a foregone conclusion that they would be in power for a full century as they were. You can draw the modern connections as you like, but the Jews have been very military over their history. And here's an example. And the way we see that in the coins is we see the symbols. The helmet is a symbol, of course, of military and fighting, a shield in the lower left. The tripod is also a symbol of victory because in the athletic games, people would win a tripod of gold to take home with them as their kind of Oscar prize. They had something to take home, and it was the tripod which they set up in the central piazza of their town to tell everyone they won in the Olympic Games. The palm branch is also a symbol of victory in antiquity, and the most interesting one for me nowadays, since 2012, when I found that coin in the upper right corner, is the Ephla stone. That's that symbol that decorated a boat. The Ephla stone, in fact, is a symbol, a goddess of victory, not a Jewish coin, of course, a goddess of victory holding an Ephla stone. What happened when a ship, when a galley would have a military battle with the enemy in the seas? When they won, they would break off this wooden decoration and bring it home and show everyone, here, I conquered the enemy's fleet because I'm holding the Ephla stone, the symbol that decorates their boats. And that's how the Ephla stone, which is a symbol of a boat, becomes a symbol of victory, because in fact, the Jews could not put that victory image on their coins, so they put the replacement. The distilled image of the victory holding the Ephla stone is the Ephla stone itself. So that's also a symbol of victory that Herod also used. Okay, so far, besides the very beginning, I've only talked about bronze coins. Those are coins that are usually sort of under the radar. I mean, they're important for us to understand about numismatics, about Jewish life, but they weren't what drove and powered the economy. The coins that powered the economy were silver and gold coins. I haven't shown you one gold coin yet, but here are the first silver coins I'm going to show you. They relate not only to the larger economic behavior of the Hasmoneans, but also to certain religious questions that have come up. Let's start with the economy. These coins were minted in Tyre. Tyre is a pagan place. You see on the head of the coin, the obverse, you see a man's head. That's not a Jewish symbol. That head happens to be a god. The head is Hercules, and in his syncretistic sense of Melkart, the god of Tyre. Melech Karta, the king of the city. That's Melkart on the obverse, on the heads, and the reverse, the symbol of Zeus, the eagle. Okay, and these are coins struck by the city of Tyre from 125 BC until almost 70 CE, 200 years. They were the standard purchasing coin, the standard large value coin used in this region. Because they were so common and because they were so pure, these coins were the preferred coins that the priests in the temple in Jerusalem wanted to receive for the half shekel tax. The
So, sorry.
half shekel tax is something we all, many of us have heard about. It's an annual tithe that Jews have to give to Jerusalem. In fact, we always thought that the half shekel tax dates all the way back to the time of Moses, when he collected a half shekel from all the able-bodied men. But the half shekel tax doesn't go back that far. Maybe that was its inspiration, but in the Second Temple period, the institution of the half shekel tax goes back to the time of the Pharisees, who apparently started this new rule of paying the half shekel tax when they became involved with the temple. They weren't involved with the temple all the way through the Second Temple period. Only around 100 BC did they have influence in the temple, and they wanted to grow the temple by making up a tax and saying it's a religious obligation. So these shekels and half shekels were paid to the Jerusalem temple. They were the common coins anyway in the region, but they were preferred because of their purity and because their availability. The picture in the bottom center, that is a picture of the largest silver Tyrian shekel and half shekel hoard found in 1961 on Usfia, on the Mount Carmel, the Usfia village, which is a popular place to visit nowadays. There were 5,000 coins in the hoard, and the idea was that perhaps the Tyrian community was paying their temple tax to Jerusalem for that year in 66 CE, just before the Jewish revolt broke out. The revolt broke out in 66. The pot was hidden in Usfia because they couldn't get to Jerusalem because of the revolt, and that's where it stayed until 1961.
When we have in the New Testament the story of Jesus and the disciples going to pay the temple tax, so would it be with these coins?
Absolutely, yes. And it's also interesting because if you think about it, you're talking about priests in the holiest place for the Jewish people. They were interested so much in getting, sorry to be so crass, but getting good money, that they agreed to allow the money to be paid with pagan symbols on both sides, and that's what you see in this quote from the Mishnah about how they prefer that the shekel in the temple is a Tyrian coin.
Would they have then potentially melted them down and used the raw material for something else, or made
Absolutely. Yes, of course. But the usual thing they would do with this money is what the Mishnah Shkalim, the Mishnah about shekels, talks about, how the money is used to improve the roads and to improve the accessibility so that the pilgrimage festivals could go on as planned. So they're not only melting them down to make vessels, they're paying the ma'ats, they're paying the building contractors to build roads and to clean the roads and to fix the roads and to fix up Jerusalem every year, because you have to keep things in good repair. When you have hundreds of thousands of people showing up 3 times a year, things have to be repaired, and this money went to maintain the city.
Very much like today.
Yes. I want to show you something else that I have to do, and I with pleasure in my job there in 2016 also. An excavation in Mount Zion turned up a coin at the very bottom. The lowest coin was found, and the archaeologist said, "Hey, this coin is exceptional. It is the first time that a coin of this kind was turned up in Jerusalem in a scientific dig." So I went to our 750,000 coin database, and I discovered that he was wrong. Here are 3 other coins that were found in excavations. They're gold coins of the same emperor, Emperor Nero, the emperor who was presiding during the outbreak of the first Jewish revolt against the Romans. And because of the Romans' arrival in 70, you have these coins in the city. The Romans apparently brought them. It's hard to imagine the Jews had them because the city was closed off from visitation from 66 through 70. So these coins are probably evidence of Roman legionnaires losing coins in Jerusalem. And there were a lot of legionnaires. So you have right now already 4 gold coins found in Jerusalem from the time of the first revolt, but actually not from the time of the revolt, from the end of the revolt.
So wouldn't these gold coins have been worth quite a lot, and you would have wanted to keep your eye on them?
Absolutely. I don't know how this exactly works. I can tell you that for the most part, the paymaster would hold on to the soldiers, the legionnaires' pay until the battle was over. Okay. So it is unusual that the 4 of them in 4 different places turned up. But when you're in battle, all kinds of things happen. And I suppose that explains why we have these 4 coins. But I'm just stressing that the things that one can do when one has a huge database, as I'm responsible for, in understanding the importance of different coins that turn up. The first Jewish revolt coins are the second case where we have Jewish symbols on coins. The first case I mentioned was Yehud in the very, very beginning. And here we are at the very end of the Jerusalem Mint, a year or 2 before it was closed because the city was destroyed. And here you find symbols of Jewish things. It's impossible to ignore them. I'm mostly talking about the bottom 3, the bronze coins, but before I mention them, even the top coins, the silver coins of the Jewish revolt, have a Jewish symbol on them. It's hard to gauge because one looks like a cup, a goblet. Mm-hmm. You see the goblet? A chalice, right? But on the other side of the coin, there is something that looks like three connected pomegranates.
Yes.
Well, I have a pomegranate tree in my yard, and they don't look like that. Even when when the buds are coming out, they're hanging down, not standing up. Yes. And it took a while for numismatists to understand these coins. The best they came up with is the next slide. Here we go. There we have the pomegranates. And there is the story of when Korach, the rebel, said everyone has to send Aaron away. All the priests have equal value, a democratic revolution. And everyone's told to put their staff, their flag, as it were, staff, in one place. And then overnight, all the other staffs stayed the same, but one staff started growing with pomegranates, but there it was called almonds. Okay, and so here is a medieval drawing of discovering Aaron's staff with all the flowering on it, and the symbol of the upright 3 pomegranates seems to be a symbol of the priestly scepter, and that's why it doesn't look like it's bending over. And it's also a symbol, of course, of spring. And we're talking about the Jewish spring of 66 CE, the Jewish spring, when people had a lot of hope that they would become independent. The Jews were independent for 5 years, but in the end, they didn't last. The Arab Spring didn't last even less. But here we have the priest's staff, and that is now a Jewish symbol, even though it just looks like some fruit.
And what is the chalice meant to represent?
There are many, many bowls and chalices. There's also a bath, B-A-T-H, in the temple. They did a lot of slaughtering. There's a lot of blood to collect. There's a lot of possibilities. Yaakov Mesherer called this the Omer chalice, the chalice that held the daily heave offering of the period of the spring. But it's just a chalice, and it's also kind of Jewish symbol. Like the wreath and all these other symbols, but they're not, for us, we don't understand them because we've never seen the original vessel. But we do understand the pomegranate now, and we'll go, I think it's the last slide. Let's go back. Next slide. There we go. The last subject about the Jewish revolt and Jewish symbols is on the bottom. You see a lulav and myrtle and willow branches together on the lower rightmost coin.
Mm-hmm.
It's a kind of bundle, a bundle of the three species of Sukkot, and then on either side, Citroen and Etrog, and then in the middle coin you have two lulavim on one side and an Etrog, a Citroen on the other side, and then the leftmost coin also two with an Etrog in the middle. So you have three kind of varieties of coins, all talking about Sukkot. I don't know if we have time to discuss why Sukkot is connected to the Jewish revolt, but I'll leave this subject open. I'll just refer people to the book of Zechariah, chapter 14, and there maybe you'll see that the only place where the story of Sukkot is mentioned outside of the Torah is about the destruction of Jerusalem and the apocalypse. And these are coins saying we're at the apocalypse, the last year of the revolt. God is going to intervene and we are going to beat the Romans despite all of the terrible things that are happening right now in the war.
But these four species coins were only minted in the final year when things were looking pretty dire, and it was
exactly
almost an amulet kind of thing, like a good luck medicine or a plea.
The Jews understood the meaning. It's like, that's the problem. We don't understand it because we, look at Sukkot as a joyous holiday, but it was the holiday of the apocalypse. And if you look into the sources, you'll see that. And in fact, Jewish people today read the 14th chapter of Zechariah on Sukkot, the first day of Sukkot. So there, even in the rabbinic tradition, that connection has been maintained.
Wow, that's fascinating, and I'm glad to have homework. Thank you.
But I still have to publish it. Okay, so we're going to now one more slide after this, and we're almost there. This is a really unusual coin that was found 6 years ago. It's the coin of Vespasian, the first coin of Vespasian minted after the battle was over in Jerusalem in 70. There's still a lot of disagreement about it, but it's a unique coin that I've held in my hand here. It's aureus, a Roman coin, obviously. The woman is Salus, personification in Roman tradition. And the inscription is the most interesting part. It says Judea Recepta. We all know about Judea capta. Judea has been recovered means something very different. Judea has been captured is a military kind of statement, and Judea Recepta, the province of Judea has returned to the Roman fold, is what it means. And there's only one of them known in the world, unique coin, and I wanted to show it to you because it's one of the largest, most important discoveries in the numismatics of the first revolt from among the coins not minted by the Jews, but the coins minted by the Romans.
And this is in our collection. There's one that has been found, and it's in our collection.
This coin is in our building. It happens to be down the hall in the Israel Museum collection. Okay, after 70 CE, we still learn about Jewish coinage, but I'm going to cover this very quickly, and it's very small pictures. There's a few stages before Jews get used to using pagan images. The battle is over, the Jews have lost. But in the first stage, afterwards, the Jews were still using only non-offensive symbols like we saw before, palm branches, wreaths, double cornucopias. And then the next later stage, 10, 15 years later, they introduce the emperor's portrait on the obverse and keep those non-offensive types on the reverses. I'm not talking about the Mint of Jerusalem. There is no more Mint of Jerusalem. There are mints of Jews living outside of Jerusalem in Neapolis, Nablus, Shechem, in Sepphoris, Sipori, and in Tiberias. Those are all Jewish cities that first started with aniconic, non-offensive types, switched over to half non-offensive types. They gave their homage to the emperor on one side and used the inoffensive types on the other side. And then finally, 40 years later, under Trajan and Hadrian, they got used to it. They got used to pagan symbols. They said, it doesn't matter. They're just coins. We're not praying to these things. We just want to use the coins. And so maybe the local city council was no longer 95% Jewish. Maybe it was 65% Jewish. And so they had to sort of pay their dues and allow these symbols to be on the coins. But these are Jewish cities who are minting coins with pagan symbols. And people, as time went on, got used to the pagan symbols. And so you see pagan symbols in lots of Jewish contexts to this day throughout the Byzantine period. And nowadays, our view is these things aren't offensive. We are not praying to these things. These are not icons. They're not gods. They're these tiny, tiny things. And therefore, it's not offensive to us anymore. And it doesn't fit into the description of the second commandment, which says you shall not have graven images. Who can imagine that this little coin with that little 4 millimeter standing God is something someone would pray to? Not everyone had that opinion. I'm just sharing that it goes both ways here. Agrippa I, Herod's grandson, thought pagan images were terrific. He grew up in the Roman court along with Caligula and Claudius. And so while the Jews are very strict about pagan images and iconography, he was not, and he struck this coin, not in Jerusalem, up in Sepphoris. And on the inscription, on this very, very large ornate coin, it says, a vow and treaty between the great King Agrippa and the emperor, the Senate, and the people of Rome. They made peace. He made peace with them, but it's like Bibi making peace with Donald Trump. It doesn't always trickle down to what the people really wanted.
Okay.
I allow myself that political comment, and I think now we're at the last slide. I want to show you two of the real goodies that have turned up in two different ways in the past decade here in our collection. You see me looking at a very small gold coin. It was a coin found by a very nice woman named Lori Rimon of the kibbutz in the north. She found it on a hike after a rain in 2016. The tour leader contacted an archaeologist friend of hers. That archaeologist friend contacted another archaeologist, and within an hour, a representative of the Israel Antiquities Authority was on the site with them looking at this beautiful coin. They sent me a picture in WhatsApp and identified it on the spot. Here's the coin as well. That's the same coin in the picture. Yeah, that's an image actually of Augustus. It's a commemorative issue that Trajan, another emperor, made here we are, sorry again, of a coin that was first issued by Augustus. It dates to 114 CE. And it's, here's a story, just a short one about how they said, oh, is this special? And I said, I looked up in the books. I found that there were 3 of them known. And we put out a press release that 3 of them were known. And of course, I didn't get to the world expert of Trajan coins, because a week later he wrote me and said, why are you talking about 3? We have 8 of them. Okay, so it's all the same. They're really very, very special coins. And I don't want to talk about monetary value, but Lori was a very good Samaritan in donating this coin to the national collection.
The quality of the craftsmanship is so clean because it was gold, and so it didn't fall into disrepair over time.
It does not corrode. But it's also it's not worn either. I mean to say that you can have a gold coin that's worn because people handle it a lot. This coin was not handled very much. Let's go back to the screen again. So I'll show you the second coin of this last slide. Okay, on the right side of the screen. This is not a good Samaritan giving a coin. This is the fruit of labor of many, many archaeologists at a very, very nice archaeological site up in the north, right along the Lebanese border. I'm a member of the excavation team. I wasn't on the site when this coin was found. It was found on the last day of the last season. The volunteer was sweeping the top of the walls so the picture from the balloon could take the entire site and everything would be very clear and visible. And in between some of the stones of one of these broken walls, in other words, in the heart of the wall, not the top of the wall, where the wall was preserved, this gold coin was clearly visible. You see it here. It's a coin from 191 BCE, minted in Cyprus, but issued by Ptolemy V. These coins are so expensive, so valuable, so heavy, 27.71 grams, that they were not used to purchase anything. You couldn't buy anything with this. Imagine having a coin if you want to buy an apartment and saying, okay, I'll pay you for this apartment with one coin, and you bring this beautiful gold coin down, and then what's the other guy going to do with it? He can't pass it off, because who wants something this so much value concentrated into one coin? In the marketplace, a similar coin, there are two of this pair of dies known. The other coin is estimated to be worth $120,000. This is priceless for us. We're not going anywhere with it. We're not selling it. If you bring the screen back to me, I'll show you the original.
Wow, it's huge.
It's really enormous. The largest gold coin we have in our collection. There is the figure of Arsinoe II, the wife and sister of Ptolemy II. This coin was struck 110 years after she died. Ptolemy II loved her so much he turned her into a goddess and started a cult of this woman, Arsinoe. And once a year they had this festival. And this coin probably was brought to the place where the festival was happening in Kadesh, and was used in the ceremony of the celebration of this woman's life.
So in this case, they would have actually worshipped what was engraved on the coin.
Yes, pagans certainly did. Okay, here we have it, and there are cornucopias on the other side. When this coin was found, I wasn't at the site, and they told me to come right away. I had to come only on Sunday. I got there as early as I can. The coin was kept in the Simmer owner's safe, and as soon as I got there, they brought me there, gave me the coin, and said, "Now it's your problem. We don't want to be responsible for such a valuable thing." I actually slept with my pants on that night and had the coin in my pocket, so nothing would happen, and brought the coin home back to the safe the following day. So it's a very exciting find for me. Exciting also because of the importance it has for the archaeological site. So I think that's a fitting end to this survey of what I've learned about coinage and what is new in ancient coins here in Israel.
Donald, thank you so much. And I look forward to reading your upcoming articles. Be sure to send them to me. And I'm sure that the readers of the Times of Israel would want to hear about them too. Really, thank you so much. I learned so much, and there's still so much more to learn. So thank you, really.
You're very welcome.